I think the definition of greatness is to inspire the people next to you. It's not something that lives and dies with one person. It's how can you inspire a person to then in turn inspire another person that then inspires another person. And that's how you create something that I think lasts forever. And I think that's our challenge as people, is to figure out how our story can impact others and motivate them in a way to create their own greatness.
Welcome to the Welcome to the 3-on-3 podcast, your new favorite basketball podcast and the number one podcast in the universe. That's right. The universe. Yes, guys. Happy holidays and welcome. I'm here with my guys, my best friends. Evan, how you feeling today, sir?
I'm feeling award-winning, spectacularly well. Thank you for asking.
Yes, I love it. Love it. Lou, what it do? How you feeling, brother?
Cause man, I'm smooth, man. And yes, the entire unit. Wow, that's crazy. I just got here and I'm already being booed. Wow. Well, you know what? To be festive, I wore my red beanie. So
I see it.
Let's talk about it. Let's do it.
We're in the festive spirit today. Yes.
Why not,
Happy
man?
holidays.
Why not?
Also, we have the pod mom with us, who's a little under the weather, but he's still here, baby. He's dedicated, man. He's Kobe playing with the bad Achilles, Jordan with the flu game. He's here, and that's why we're the number one in the universe. So appreciate you being here, pod mom.
Yep. In the background, still hating. We love him still.
All right, y'all. It's that type of show, baby. Let's jump right into it, guys. So just like we're the number one rated NBA basketball podcast, you would say we're kind of like a Hall of Fame podcast. So the nominees for the 2025 Hall of Fames came out, and there's some names that were highlighted, but one stood out. And when I mean stood out so much so that it was bullied to our text group. And I mean, it was pivoted to our text group. It was stepped in, and
Hans, we should have known. We should have known. if we didn't say it, we know for sure who would have brought it up.
Yes, sir.
It's not you. It's not me. And not the Bob Mamba.
But yes, but Butler Sands let it be known that somebody was nominated to the 2025 Basketball Hall of Fame. I'll let you break the ice. Who are we talking about? I don't know. You know who?
Because I saw Maya Moore on the list. It wasn't.
I saw Sue Bird as well too. You know,
Bird,
Billy Donovan.
It wasn't Dwight. Well, if it was Dwight, maybe Pop Mama would have brought it up. But educate us.
Yeah. A lot of names. A lot of names. Looking forward to discussing the other names in this 2025 class.
You're not.
But
you're
the
not.
topic,
You're not.
The one
There's
that
only
matters.
one name.
You're right. There's only one name that matters, and that is Carmelo Anthony himself. Can we get a round of applause for him for his nomination, for which will automatically be a first ballot Hall of Fame selection for Red Hook's finest, Baltimore's finest, Carmelo Anthony, Syracuse's finest.
Hold on. What city is he actually from?
Listen. You can claim more than one spot, okay? He's from Brooklyn by way of Baltimore. All right, respect
Hans,
it. You know,
Hans, this is really
hood life
for Evan, is it not?
Whoa!
Right,
don't.
Very apropos for our Queens, Georgia raised, Queens born
from the Bronx born. Okay,
Bronx born. Atlanta raised, but or rather, Georgia raised. Bronx.
Let him cook. Go ahead.
I'm
gonna let him cook.
Jersey number represents. You get to represent. Okay, if you're born in a hospital in New York, you get to represent New York. It is what it is. But this is a day of festiveness. This is a day of celebration. This is a day of just giving flowers and props to a career, to a player, to a man that is just phenomenal. you only get a handful of players in your life that you get to enjoy from the beginning of their career to the end of their career, and they give you that excitement all the way through it. And Carmelo Anthony is that player for me. Uh, he's I'm gonna say here he's my favorite player of all time. I can't even say who no, 1B is because that'll cause drama just saying his name. So I won't bring that up. I'm gonna talk about Carmelo Anthony right now. From the moment I saw him play that first game at Oak Hill against LeBron and go toe to toe against LeBron on LeBron James night on ESPN, I said,
Mm-hmm.
this kid is different. From the moment I saw him step foot on a garden and play that first game in Syracuse against Texas, and I think he put up 35 and 10 that night. That's whoa.
Yes, sir.
There's
Yes.
something different about this one. Leading the Syracuse Orangemen to a national championship in 2003, going in to be that star-studded NBA draft with LeBron and D Wade and Chris Bosh and shout out to Darko Milicic. That's not what we're talking about right now, though. We're not talking about that right now. But holding it down and being
Honorable mention
pure.
because Darko has a lot of highlights.
Listen, he does. So we'll
Darko
go
has
with it.
a lot of highlights.
He's got a ring. He's got a ring.
Well,
Can't knock him for it.
and they're not by his.
Understood. But to be a career that Carmelo had, 10-time All-Star, led the NBA in scoring, 10th all-time on the NBA scoring list, 4-time Olympian, 3-time Olympic gold medalist. But it's not even that. It's
And
the
robbed of
style of
rookie of the
play.
year. Robbed of the
Huh?
rookie of the year. Robbed of
Listen,
rookie.
we can get into it. I see
But,
the
I'll let
furrow
you. I'll let you
on
cook. I'll let you cook. I'm with you, man. I'm with you. He robbed the rookie of the year, but look,
from the standpoint of standing toe to toe against LeBron from before the NBA and never looking at it as this guy is better than me or above me, as he always looked at it as no, we're the marquee. And every time he stepped on the court, no matter who he was up against, he looked at it like he's the marquee. I'm just excited for his career to be recognized. In the game of isolation basketball that got phased out in the mid 2010s, to the extent that it was up until that point, we talk about 3-level scores, and I know we hate to use that phrase, but he epitomized a 3-level score. Somebody that could create his own 3-pointer, get you on that wing, get you on that post, bully you, cross you up, finesse you, jumper over you. It was just a clinic every time you watched him play, and it was just such a joy to watch Melo play. And I'm excited not only just because of the accolades, but just because of the pureness and beauty of his game, to get to enjoy him being celebrated over these next few months as he prepares to go into the Hall of Fame. So shout out to my boy Melo, not to mention impeccable shoe line as well. One of the only successful Team Jordan brand shoe lines. Not just I don't mean from how much it made. I mean from them just looking amazing. Shout out to
it's a lot of Team Jordans
I'm excited.
that get clowned, but Melo definitely did his thing, man. And big up to Melo, one of the greatest and purest scorers in the game. I mean, we've gone back and forth in terms of my criticisms, but when it comes down to just a pure basketball player, it's very few that have done it like Melo has done it, and did it the way that Melo did it. When you talk about just a pure scorer, I argued, Hans, we may have actually had this back and forth of when KD came in the league in terms of who is the best scorer in the league in terms of it doesn't matter where he is on the floor, pure scorer in the league. And I've always said, Melo, it doesn't matter. He's one of those guys from the post all the way to the top of the key. Ball is in his hands. Melo has always been a bucket. So big up to Melo. Shout out to him getting his nod in terms of the Basketball Hall of Fame. He's done a lot and he's shown a lot, regardless of my personal gripes. But when we talk about one the greatest that we've ever seen do it on the court, Melo is a perfect example of it. Being from what he did in Denver, coming in off rip, straight out the gate, and also what he brought to New York, and really giving them something to look forward to, and also putting on a show. Great baller, in the purest of forms, and nobody can deny that. Shout out to Melo.
Yes, sir, man. You guys have laid it out perfectly. Melo is awesome. The only thing that stood out to me is what Evan mentioned: is some cats are true ballers in the sense of they have that dog in them, and Melo had that dog in him. He had that Mamba mentality in him. No matter who was on the court with him, when you get in between those lines, he's going toe to toe with you, and he's not backing down from it at all. And one
Facts.
thing I will say is that I don't think that Melo gets enough credit for rising to the occasion on both ends of the floor when it comes to those marquee matchups. He not only was able to carry his own weight scoring wise, but he did a good job defending those players as well. So I remember watching those games versus him and Kobe, versus him and LeBron, and he would do his thing on the defensive end as well. And I don't think he got enough credit for that. So shout out to Melo, man. He
Hans,
is top 5 in my opinion, if not top 3 power forward in NBA history. Um, you
power
know,
forward. I thought he was small forward. Anyway, but
so
we get it.
that's where I'm at.
So
But
if Hans was to put him top 5 in the list, I call him whatever position.
Power forward?
I'm not fighting you on it.
listen, man, I'm putting it power
No.
forward. So go ahead, Lou.
No, I was saying it was dope because, to your point, Hans, what you're talking about in terms of from a defensive perspective, because he has got a lot of criticism from, in terms of being a defender, being lazy on defense. But I'm trying to remember exactly what podcast he was talking on, but he mentioned when they were talking about, such and such player went balled out, he's like, nah, I'm gonna be on that guy. He was busting everybody else. He's not about to bust me. Like, yeah, he's not about to bust my butt. Like, I'm on the court. Whoever it was the guy from whatever team that was coming up. Like you said, Hans, he rose to the occasion and, focused in on making sure that he was on that guy and you are not about to embarrass my team or me. You know what I mean? So shout out to Melo. He doesn't get, like you said, he doesn't really get the credit on the defensive end, but it was dope to see him address that point in terms of like how he stepped up to the occasion and defending the best player on the other team.
And for right or wrong, he wanted to be the guy. He could have chose to go the path with LeBron and Wade and Bosh and try to put that super team together and ride for championships and whatnot. But he said it. He said, "No, listen, I want to be the guy. I want to be he calls it the white hat. I want to be, the one that has to carry it and take responsibility for what happens here." In his mindset at the time, I don't want to be the fourth option on the team and just happy to be here. I want to take all that comes with being a leader. He gets criticized for his time with the Knicks, but you never heard him shy away from criticism. He never turned away an interview. He never turned away a question. He stood there on his own 2 feet and said, "Listen, I'm the guy. Whatever good or bad comes with this situation, you got to come talk to me about it, and I'm gonna answer for it." And all the way through the end of his career, which, let's be honest, if certain players are still playing right now, there's no reason Carmelo Anthony should still be on the roster right now, or at least last year. But that's a gripe for another day. Melo had his game and his pocket on lock to the end, and was always stood on his principles, and I respect that. One of the things I respect about him the most is that he's always stood on his principles, whether it was popular or not.
I will say this, Hans, if anybody, man, like, yeah, the prominence of the nickname Hoodie Mellow really is when his Blazer days. I mean, when people thought he was cooked, came to the Blazers and balled.
Sonny saved y'all season, Hans. Go ahead.
And ball. Oh, you ain't have to do all that. You ain't have to do all that, Ev. You ain't have to do all that. All I know is you ain't have to do all that, Ev. You ain't have to do all that. All I'm saying is that he came to the Blazers and he showed why he's Carmelo.
You're right. He saved our season. We saved his legacy. It happened. So,
it was mutually beneficial.
Yeah,
all I know is that Hoodie Melo, okay? Yeah, I mean, Melo came back with the braids when he was playing with the Blazers, okay? He says, yo, forget this brush cut. I mean, get these braids back in. Hoodie, but yo, he cooked. He cooked. And he showed why, like you said, man. He's somebody that could be on anybody's roster right now. You need a bucket, Melo gonna give you that, man. And we knew that Melo was a walking bucket from day one. Shout out to him.
All right, guys. So enough with this Melo fanfare. Love it. Shout out to Melo. Doing his thing out here. Let's go on to the other notable candidates that were on the list as well. One that has really popped up out there is Dwight Howard. Dwight Howard is on the list as well too, along with Marc Gasol and Penny Hardaway. But Dwight Howard, how do you guys feel about Dwight Howard being on this list? And do you think that he's going to make it first round, or is he worthy first round ballot Hall of Fame?
I think. Go ahead, Luke. Go ahead.
No, I mean, when we talk about defensive players, premier defensive players, and also, look, we're talking about a guy who came out of high school. I mean, and made his stance like early on got compared to Shaq, and also made himself known as a premier defensive player in the league for years. Like you won Defensive Player of the Year 3 times. I mean, he's led the league in rebounds, right? He led the league in block. We have to admit, like, what Dwight Howard did on the court, regardless of everything else. I mean, being the leader in terms of in Orlando, especially after the Tracy McGrady years and so on. Dwight Howard was a force in the league. All the other stuff outside of, off the court and so on and so forth. Yes, he never won a chip and so on. However,
you won a chip.
Bubble.
Yes, he won a championship with the Lakers.
Allegedly. Continue. I feel you.
Gonna leave it at that. Point is, in terms of his accolades from a defensive perspective, is something that anybody would look at and say, hey, from a basketball Hall of Fame, right? What he was able to do in the time that he was able to do it. Yeah, there's argument why he deserves to have a place there. And he did things realistically that other people hadn't done, right? So, Dwight Howard was one of the best players in the league for a good amount of time that he was there, right? We can say at least he had at least a 5 to 7 year stretch where he was one of the top players in the league. So, there is argument for him to be there. First ballot, up for debate, but when it comes to the Basketball Hall of Fame, is he going to get there?
Breaking news, the LA Lakers did win a championship 2020 per sources. We all know what that means. Ev, what's your take on Dwight Howard? Does he fit the criteria for you to be first ballot Basketball Hall of Fame?
An 8-year run in which he was All NBA 8 years, 5 of those years, first team All NBA. 3-time Defensive Player of the Year, like Lou mentioned. Led the league in blocks twice. Led the league in rebounds 4 times. Took his team to an NBA Finals. Knocked out LeBron in the year that we thought, Nike definitely thought we were getting the LeBron versus Kobe NBA Finals. Ruined that.
Talk about it.
When you package that 8-year run in, I think the accolades are Hall of Fame worthy. You gotta separate one, the way in which he got out of Orlando, which was ugly, a little cowardly. 2, the journeyman career after that, and 3, the post career antics, whatnot. Mm-hmm. But when you take that package and you're able, that 8-year run, and you're able to add another almost decade of stats on top of it, hard to knock him as a Hall of Famer.
Even what they don't really talk about his stats overseas, but again, this is the Basketball Hall of
This
Fame,
is a
right?
Basketball Hall of Fame.
It's not relegated simply to what you've done in the NBA. So, what he's been able to do. Again, somebody that has come on from high school and so on, and like you mentioned, in those
Yeah.
8 years,
I'll say this. I know Dwight gets a lot of flack, and that's just honestly, I think, because of his trolling like personality. He definitely gets under people's skins and likes to say things to really kind of jar people, and he's just really kind of always been that way. But if we just stick to basketball, I feel like there's no doubt that he's a first ballot Hall of Famer. In my opinion, he is the last kind of dominant center that didn't really have an offensive package. He developed, his little drop step, his little hook. But he's the last kind of dominant center who didn't
true
really
center.
have, and I can't say that because Joel Embiid is a true center.
Okay,
And
yeah, okay.
that's why I can't say that.
Yes,
So he to me is like the last center who dominated the league and didn't necessarily have like a offensive package per se, and just did it so with his athleticism. So I will say this: one thing you can't take away from him is his defensive prowess. I think that's really where he shines, and that's what his basketball legacy to me is going to be. His defensive prowess was something out of this world, man. This man would go after it and was really out here changing. Like the run that the Magic went on outside, that was him. That was him. Just limiting the points scored, and it wasn't the 3-point league like we have it today, right? So, and that's because of Dwight Howard. So, shout out to Dwight Howard, guys. But also, what's really notable about this 2025 Basketball Hall of Fame is the WNBA, man. Like, you have Sue Bird, they are really out here. Maya Moore, Shamika Holtzclaw, like they are really out here. This is a top tier, in my opinion, WNBA Hall of Fame. Here's my question to you guys: out of this class, I'll start with me. Out of this class, which player stands out to you the most? For me, it's gonna be Maya Moore. So I remember when the WNBA was on the rise, outside of Lisa Leslie, and that's because of how dominant she was before she got to the WNBA. Maya Moore was one that really stood out to me, and I remember watching her play and just being like, "Oh wow, okay, like she's a problem." So I love to see that she's getting this nod into the 2025 um, and, not NBA, Basketball Hall of Fame. And I'll never forget seeing her dominate the game and seeing her ferocity. And it was like ballers know. Like, when you see somebody and you're like, that's a baller. I just remember seeing her play and remember like, yo, that's a baller. Like, she could step on the court with absolutely anybody and hold her own. Like, that's the one thing that definitely stands out to me. So I'm curious to hear you have like, what stands out to you on this top elite WNBA class that's going into this Hall of Fame?
I had to say Shamika Holtzclaw is probably the second best college basketball player I've ever seen, just because I think Taurasi is the best women's player I've ever seen in my life. But Shamika Holtzclaw at Tennessee was absolutely phenomenal. Led Tennessee to the first ever 3 straight national champions, and then came in, had an outstanding WNBA career as well. So I would say Shamika Holtzclaw, but Maya Moore was a beast as well. Don't get me wrong there. And Sue Bird really got that UConn run. I won't say started because she didn't get it started, but she transitioned it to an even higher level. Set the table for Tarazi to follow behind her. So I know I'm giving 3 answers in one, but Shamika Holtzclaw, but it's still a star-studded class, man. This may be
I
the
was about
best
to
class
say,
I've ever
man,
seen.
you're giving us the whole
No, I
class.
know.
He's doing his classic, Ev talk. You feel me?
Listen, I did. I caught myself doing it while I was doing it. I couldn't help it, but yeah.
Facts, 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 facts. All right, guys, let's move on to the next topic. Begrudgingly, we're going to talk about the New York Knickerbockers. Yes, we are. And specifically, Karl Anthony Towns. He showed out when they recently played his former team, the Minnesota Timberwolves. Cat was doing some great things. I'm gonna give him credit where credit's due. He put up some great numbers. He didn't get into foul trouble like he normally does. He was focused throughout the whole game and even showed up defensively as well. And I'm not going to lie, he made the Knicks look like, you know what? We need to be worried about these Knickerbockers in the East. He really had the Knicks looking like a formidable team out there. But it begs the question, man, why aren't the Minnesota Timberwolves looking so great as well? Ev, I'll start with you. Is this a case of Cat really just being a superior player? Or are the Timberwolves just in a downward spiral with the personnel that they have?
The first place I want to go with this conversation is saying that it troubles me about you, the fact that you even start this topic with begrudgingly, that you take the suggestion that we talk about it in our text group as a begrudging. You rep New Jersey, you say all these great things about New Jersey, and then when one
Jersey
of your
all day,
own is
baby.
having success, it pains your heart. The level of hate in you concerns me, sir, and I want you to go see a therapist, a psychologist about it. Okay,
Never let that hate go.
All right.
If Kendrick taught you anything, never let that hate go.
You. No, you on the East Coast. Okay, that's West Coast. That's West Coast philosophy. Okay, over here on the East Coast. All right, we don't do that. So I'm sorry. To your question, sir. To your question, I don't even remember your question, but Cat returning to the Wolves couldn't have gone any better for him as a player. And so I'll talk about it for a second just to get into, I don't want to go too far into the Knicks, but I do want to just talk about from the standpoint of the Wolves' struggles. What you saw from a Cat standpoint was, okay, I molded my game to be the key piece that we needed from a flexibility standpoint last year, able to spread the floor to an extent, extend my game out to make Ant and Rudy and Conley have the space to be successful in where they needed to be. We parlay that into the most successful run in this franchise's history. We knock on the doorstep of an NBA Finals. I have a successful year. Everybody has a successful year. And then off of our most successful run, you trade me. So if I'm Cat's coming back with that emotion, with also learning how to be successful in this role that he played last year, and he's carried that to the Knicks. And now what we're seeing is a player that not only is giving the team the spacing that they need to complement all the players they have, but he's also picked back up his rebounds. He's leading the league in rebounds. And he's being the center that the team needs as well. So that all leads into, a perfect storm in that game in Minnesota this week where he drops 32 and 20. But it leads to what's wrong with Minnesota.
Sabonis is leading the league in rebounds, but go ahead.
I mean, maybe as of today, but
in the past
5
week, games,
yes,
past 5-10 games, yes, it is
Cat was leading the league.
Okay,
this back to point one. The hate in you, sir. Okay, the hate in you.
It's not the hate. You know what I mean? It's a fact.
Nah, I'm messing with you. He's leading the league in total rebounds. You're right. Go ahead.
Yes. But I mean, look.
So you stop.
Anyway, cook up.
It's okay. It's all right. Minnesota. What you're seeing right now is a team that had fragile chemistry from a mix, because remember, all of last year we talked about offensively, would this team gel? They had struggles in the fourth quarter, but overall they had enough difference and that flexibility of Cat for them to allow Rudy to have space, allow Ant to have some space. Ant is down to his lowest percentage of shots in the paint in his career, below 28%. Julius Randle, who I still love, still soft spot in my heart for him, and Nas Reed.
You got that Dame Infinity that Hans got.
It's not quite that. It's not quite that. Nah, Hines has another level of. We won't get into that. We might get into.
Man, we could get into it if you want to.
Yeah.
Top 10 score in the league.
it. So,
Just saying,
All right, my bad. My
Top
bad.
75 player.
I
started something. That's my fault.
I still follow all his
My fault.
ex-girlfriends on Facebook, apparently. But anywho,
Just saying.
You know how on LinkedIn they be like ex Google, ex Amazon, ex Meta.
right? Exactly.
Just saying. It's, but go ahead.
But Julius Randle, Nas Reed, too much overlap in skill set, right? This one here, Jaden McDaniel's shot has fallen through. Mike Conley is just a shell of himself. So you're seeing a team that just doesn't have a mix right now to be consistent enough offensively to win in a real complicated West. I don't like Ant shooting so many threes, even though he is shooting them well, but he doesn't have the space to get to the hole to do what he does best. And if he's the only, and Julius is having a great season, don't get me wrong, from a stat standpoint, but they just don't have the symmetry right now to pull out close games. And that's the challenge that I'm seeing with Minnesota.
They can't score easy buckets.
Yeah,
and like you said, the spacing is off. And for Ant to be explosive and to be used to his fullest potential and to be used efficiently, he has to start taking less threes. He's leading the league now in 3 points made, which is wild. You wouldn't think that coming from Anthony Edwards, but it shows you he's trying to do everything he can to at least make them competitive. Whereas, like Evan was saying, Cat molded his game. He was that person they could throw it to out there as the big who could stretch the floor, give you some 3-pointers. So they're definitely missing that. And I hate to say it, in my head, I can't picture quite yet what that synergy would be for them, because I think it would require some sacrifice. Not to say it can't be done, right? Ev, you've expressed your frustration as a Knicks fan with Julius Randle and how sometimes he can stop the momentum. He's a ball stopper sometimes, and he can stop the flow of an offense when he, I guess, has that one-on-one mentality. And you have two of those essentially, right, with Ant Edwards and Julius Randle on the same team. So my question is, do they figure it out as in somebody's going to change their game a little bit, or somebody's going to sacrifice, or do they pick their spots? Is it, hey, you're the first half, I'm the second half? Like, how do they figure this out? Because I think Julius is who he is. I think he really is. I don't see him changing, his game to the extent that Cat did. And that's what concerns me. Like, in my head, I don't see Julius as that flexibility type of player to change it to something that they need. They'd have to get other pieces in order to make that work.
I have a question to piggyback
Go
off Hans. This is one of the first things we talked about when the trade happened, right? Is the key to success for Minnesota is what Randle, in terms of what his game will look like. And if he can fit, and also with his fit, also being able to tailor his game to understanding, like, I'm not the leader of this team, right? When he was in New York, he was the guy. Injury, Jalen Brunson takes the helm. He's not playing. Different team identity. You come to this team, one of the first things we talked about is, okay, cool, what does this look like? Or rather, does the success of this team hinge on Hans, like you're mentioning, Julius Randle being able to adapt his game to what this team identity is, because he's walking into a new identity, and not just walking into a new identity, also is walking into a team that now there's a changing of the guard in terms of who the leader of this team is, right? And being Ant. With that being the case, based on what Julius Randle has shown, and like Hans is saying, him showing, okay, this is the player who I am, do we knock Julius Randle for not changing? Or is it something that Minnesota now has to then think about? We have to now adjust to be able to make this piece work if Julius is who he is and it's not going to change.
Well, I think that's exactly what the issue is. So, having watched 4 or 5 years of Julius Randle, he got to a point last year where he was the perfect version of himself. He wasn't holding the ball as long. He was making quick, decisive decisions. I'm either driving right to the hole, or I'm kicking it out. I'm making movement, kicking it to the open man. It was less time in isolation. It was less step back threes. It was spot up threes or get it right to the hole, right? But that took time to mold the offense that created that, and that got lost when he got hurt, right? So now he's back to who he's been without a system that is bringing out the best of him while trimming off the worst of him, because he doesn't have the familiarity with the parts around him to be as decisive getting the ball out of his hands or making moves to the hole quickly. And then 2, like I said, the paint is still clogged up. So they as a whole, because we've always talked about Anthony Edwards takes a lot of difficult shots, right? Their offense is always seems to bog down into whoever has the ball taking difficult shots, and now it just swaps back and forth between Ant and Julius Ant and Julius Randle, without that movement that's creating either one of them the space.
So you're basically saying he's defaulting to, what his game, what he knows best in terms of his game.
Yeah, because he doesn't have a system that's making it better for him.
I mean, it's tough to see that, because realistic at the end of the day is, for that style of game, I don't see it coexisting with Ant. And also, I do think that there's also an issue with Rudy, right? How we see Rudy's game is, and you see the frustration with Ant and Rudy's game in terms of what he's doing as the as the guy that's, like you talking about clogging up the paint. Him being ineffective in terms of doing what he's supposed to do on the offensive end, and also not in terms of being in terms of the flow of the team, getting rid of the ball. Like, you're doing these things, you're missing these easy buckets, you're not getting rid of the ball, you're in the paint. You're also, when you're not getting what you want, you're pouting. We're seeing all of these things in terms of that is also not helping overall when you look at this starting 5, right? What can be beneficial to being able to have a good mix of this team, to have some sort of chemistry where somebody like Julius Randle could find his spots, right? And I mean, seeing how Gobert is playing, I think that also is contributing to how it happens.
I think at the end of the day, Minnesota has a lot to figure it out, and hopefully they do figure it out. I do think it's fair to say that the Knicks won this trade, and I'm happy that Cat is fitting in for the Knicks. Like the Lakers, as much as I hate to admit it, but when the Knicks are doing well, it's a great NBA to watch. So,
before you transition, do you need just a second? Because that was real hard for you to get that out. You need to catch your breath or anything?
No, I'm good, man. Listen.
Right,
One thing, I'm a proud hater. I don't know if you remember this show, Ev. You probably don't, but the Star and Buckwild show up north, man. The number 1 haters. I take my lead from them, man.
I'm all for it. Talk about a great hating show.
I embrace it. So it's fine. It's fine. All right, y'all. Real quick before we jump into the next topic, Wemby is balling out of control. Dropped 40 plus on the Hawks. Dropped 30 points and 10 rebounds against my Blazers.
10
Gosh, I hate this
blocks.
guy. 10 blocks, my bad, against the Blazers. Can't stand him. But he is out here taking another leap. Are we going to give it a foregone conclusion he's going to get the All-Star nod this year? I think he's putting it on a case that he gets an All-Star nod. What do you guys think?
He got my vote for a starter in the West. I'm watching him.
I saw that.
Yeah, he's
A lot of questionable votes
definitely
there, but I saw that.
chill out. He's definitely taking steps up in points, 24.7, 10 rebounds a game. Respectable team in the 10th spot right now.
Yeah, I was going to say
Almost
they're 10th.
Yeah, almost to matching their
Ninth,
win
actually.
total from last year up to 9th. Okay. So what I like about the Spurs as a whole is they added a couple grown-ups in the room, but not too much to change the identity, to take the reins off of Wemby going out and just listen, do you, and figure out how this league works for you. And he's doing it, leading the league in blocks by a large margin, being a defensive presence, a top defensive player of the year candidate, and still fleshing out his game. I mean, he's had phenomenal stretches already in this young season. We wanted to see what he did in year 2. The first week or so of the season, I wasn't as impressed, but then I looked up and he just started having incredible individual performances. And so when you see a player in his second year, as young as he is, start stringing weeks together where he has these signature type games, right? That's getting on the trajectory of being a player that you were promised to be, and the fact that he's playing. I won't knock him. I mean, I won't leave that out. The fact that for the most part he's not missing a lot of games. He's out there every night, and he's, you can say, leading his team, through his play. And he shows that he wants to be great. He wants to be successful. I'm enjoying watching it right now. And so, yeah, from an All-Star game standpoint, as of right now, I put him on my first ballot, and I'll put him on a couple more, I'm sure.
Yeah, 100%. And I like how you mentioned that he wants to show up to those big market games. He wants to play against the Jokers. He wants to play against the Anthony Davises. Like, he wants to measure up to the other great big men that are in the league right now. And you love that. You love that. And you want to see that competitive. Everybody loves to see that competitive basketball, right? The clash of the Titans. So shout out to Wemby for taking that next step. Like you, I think that they have San Antonio has kind of like their identity, but I'm also interested to see who else they bring in to complement Wemby. I think he is seeing some benefits of Chris Paul being there, of how he's setting up, and Chris Paul is essentially kind of showing him what Chris Paul does is he brings out your strong suits. So and he puts you in positions to be successful and to score. So I do think Chris Paul being there definitely has helped his game, but I'm also interested to see who else they bring. I know it's been rumored that the Spurs and everybody else are looking at De'Aaron Fox. I know he has one more year left in his contract, right, with the Sacramento Kings. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens with him. I think that would be kind of a good kind of matchup. I don't know if you keep Chris Paul and De'Aaron, move De'Aaron to the 2, since he's kind of really a prolific scorer. But nevertheless, Wemby is out here making a name for himself and making a name as not just the best in his class, but a best big man in the league. He's really putting his stamp in the league, and we love to see it. So shout out to Wemby, man. Shout out to Wemby. All right, guys, 'tis the season. Feliz Navidad. Holiday. NBA Christmas Day lineup is here. It is a highlight of the season. NBA is known for dominating the Christmas lineup. NBA typically runs games from 12 noon all the way till 8 p.m., literally back to back to back. It's a wonderful time of year. As growing up as somebody in a household who really didn't celebrate Christmas, Christmas to me was all about NBA. because I knew I could literally sit in front of my TV
Talk about it.
for the
Talk
whole
about it.
day and just watch NBA.
Those were the gifts we look forward to.
Yes, those were my that's what Christmas looks like to me. That's what Christmas looks like to me. But let's talk about it, guys. So although it's been all over the news, social media about how the NBA's ratings are down, right? And there's so many think pieces about it and what the NBA needs to do, et cetera, et cetera. Let's start there. Do you think, Ev, that this Christmas lineup is a good one? Is it one that NBA fans should get excited about? Is it a lineup of games that will get the casual viewer locked in on Christmas Day? What are your initial thoughts when this schedule came out for the Christmas Day game in terms of, just value, eyeballs being placed on it?
When the schedule first came out, I can't lie, it felt a little bit lazy. Meaning, I feel like we see a version of Lakers Warriors either every Christmas or every big holiday or something. I feel like I'm 100% certain I watched Nuggets Suns late last year, when I was finishing cooking. It feels like I've watched this game 100 times. Sixers Celtics, I get it, but it just feels like we've watched it 100 times. Now, some of that could be, hindsight is 2020 because of where these teams currently sit. But when you look at the teams that are doing well that aren't there, right? It feels like trying to get the legacy acts one more show, right? At the expense of teams that are actually being more successful, that may be the actual marquee stories of the season. And that's what gets a little, that's why it feels a little lazy, a little stale when you first look at it. Don't get me wrong, the first game of the slate, listen, I will be tuned in. But
of course.
It didn't matter who the Knicks were playing. Come on, let's be real.
Oh, no, it didn't. It absolutely didn't.
The Knicks could be playing the Tar Heels.
That noon is like it's the most. It may be the best timed holiday game in any sport of the year for me personally, and excited to see Wemby coming to the Garden. But the slate itself, a little stale to me. I'll be watching though.
All right, Lou, what are some teams that you felt that were left out of the NBA Christmas Day slate that should be featured this year?
Look, man, I think with the rising competition with the NFL, and now that the NFL has jumped on the Christmas Day wave as of last year, because it happened to have fallen, I believe, on, was it Thursday last year? It was a Thursday night, so that was, typical of football. And they doubled back on Christmas, right? So now you have competition with the NFL, and your viewership is down. You're not taking the hottest teams in the league, right? So to answer your question, Hans, OKC should be here. Milwaukee should be here. I think the Christmas games should be taken into account as the season comes along, because these are prime opportunities for you to boost your viewership, right? So these are things that should be thought of as the season is moving along. So so two teams off rip is OKC, Milwaukee. I also think that another team that should have been in consideration as well is Memphis. Ja is back. Let's let Ja cook. You know what I mean? This is a guy that was in conversation in the face of the league. So there's some young teams. I would call 12. I would even throw the Orlando into the mix of this. These teams that are young, they're exciting, they get into the mix.
Now with these injuries,
Well, here's the thing, right?
But
If
it's
Paulo is
still
back, yes,
fighting.
I understand. But if Paulo's back, Franz is back, and it's crazy that they both had the same exact injury, right? That has put them out for the amount of time that they've been out. But these teams that have been up and coming and that are exciting, and also top teams in the league, should be the marquee matchups that we see during this time, where you can garner the most viewership possible. So I hope the league takes that into consideration moving forward, letting time play out, because I mean the NFL does that, right? They do some subject to change. You have enough games in the NBA where you can be like, all right, cool. Based on how the season is going, we think these teams should be the ones that we put out when we can have the most eyes watching the NBA. So yeah,
so
those are teams I definitely should think that have been
I
a missed opportunity.
100% agree with you. I think the NBA should adopt the flexibility that the NFL uses in terms of making sure that the marquee teams get the spotlight,
Mhm.
get the bookings on the big networks. So that, or I say change it up. Change it up. So this is my idea.
Boxing against Beyonce and Mariah. All right,
So I
you need
think
something.
I think it works well with so you just got off the NBA Cup, right?
Mhm.
We got to see some competition. It's great. Let's keep it going. I say you do
Rematch.
the Christmas Day games, match it up with rankings. First seed
Thank
versus first seed, or you know what I'm saying, leaders in
you.
divisions. Like
Mm.
make it like that. Make it based off of some type of seeding or where you're currently at, right?
Fact. That's great.
So
That's
because
great.
it's a to me it's a competitive time. You want to see that competitive basketball. So make it off of rankings. So make it off of rankings, whether you do it by conference or division, however you want to do it. But that way you always ensure that you get the competitive teams that are
Yep.
playing no matter what. Think about it. We'd love to see Knicks Celtics. I'd love to see that. You get
Fact.
what I'm saying? Like I would love to see that. I'd love to see OKC. You get what I'm saying? Like
Mhm.
versus the Rockets or like we want to see that. So I think they need to change up the structure, either adopt the flexibility that the NFL has by moving that.
Mhm.
And I think the NBA should do that all season long as far as
Agreed.
adapting the flexibility,
Agreed.
because there's some teams we're seeing like bro, we don't need to see that. And then or do it by where they're currently seated. That to me would
What?
eliminate all of that. You're getting the competitive basketball
Yeah.
that's there.
You brought up something that's also interesting. Why not take it a step further? Why not play the finals of the NBA Cup on Christmas? I know you want to have multiple games, but why not go all out? Go all out like the NFL is going. They have Beyonce and Mariah performing at half times of each
The
of them.
thing is though, you wouldn't get the slate. It wouldn't be an all day thing.
No, I
So
understand you don't get the slate, right? But you know what I mean? Oh, what if that's the last game, right? All these other teams, they've been knocked out. Make it the last game, right? Make it anyway. I'm just throwing things out as we're talking about it. Some things that will make you look forward to the Christmas
no,
game.
no,
Now that
I
you have
get
yeah, now
make it
that
the
you have the
last game or
competition with the
something.
NFL, yeah, like you have the competition with the NFL now, right? Okay, cool. What is it that we can do that will make folks want to say, okay, cool, it's the NBA Cup final. That's going to be the last game. Okay, cool. I'll watch the slate based on what you're talking about, right? Most competitive teams outside of that, and maybe that's the last game. Is the final of the NBA Cup. But I think what you said is spot on in terms of adopting that flexibility and figuring out, how do we bring in the most competitive games for that slate, especially if you want to adopt the day and you want to boot the NFL out of it. Look, let's continue to take over that day. Let's make it the most competitive games with the most competitive teams.
So sitting there thinking about that and the idea you threw out, Hans, I'm not gonna lie, I kind of love that one. I thought of it from the standpoint of have 5 versus 5, 4 versus 4, 3 versus 3, etc.
Yeah.
1 versus 1 be the nightcap. The playing devil's advocate to why the NBA does what it does. I guess the reason they do, why they do, can be captured in the fact that we just went 10 minutes talking about putting the best teams on Christmas Day, and not one of us actually mentioned the Cleveland Cavaliers, which have the best record in the NBA. So it's like we want to see it, but depending on who the team is, we kind of don't even think about them, right? So,
I don't know.
but
I'd watch Cleveland
oh no,
versus.
I would.
Agree, but I
versus
think
them.
that's a marketing issue for the NBA.
That's the point that's the point
Right.
that I'm saying, is that I
Hey,
think
because
from a
if this is the
marketing
best team,
standpoint, that's where they fall back on.
exactly.
Who's going to get, they're playing it safe for who they think is going to get the eyeballs versus.
Well, we know exactly what it is. We talked about this before. The big markets, all right? The New York, Los Angeles, and so on. And then you're gonna stay on the.
That horn was for the Knicks. I feel you, my boy.
Okay, so you're gonna stay on the legacy names. Oh, here the legacy names, the Steph Curry's, right? Obviously, Ant is a big name, right? It's all over the media in terms of what we talk about with the various deal, what his Adidas deal, and then also potentially being handed the torch as the next face of the NBA. So I get why some of these are on, right? Like KD, name, right? So on and so forth. But in terms of the point that you're making is the NBA needs to do a better job of marketing. If this is the team that is the best playing team in the league, they need to be shown. It doesn't matter what market it is. People in Los Angeles should be watching Cleveland Cavaliers game. It shouldn't be like, oh well, we don't catch Cleveland games because it's not shown in our area. Those teams that are the best teams should be showcased all around. Yes, you see your local team in your local network, but the NBA needs to do a better job of showcasing teams that play great basketball.
Yeah, I for one am not a fan of this whole keeping up the legacy when it comes to showing games on TV, and also, my gripes with the All-Star. Like at a certain point, the league, you have to understand the league has evolved, whereas the legacy in which you're trying to keep, it doesn't make sense and it doesn't connect to its current viewers. So I hope that the NBA realizes that the legacy angle sometimes just has to be let go or put aside, and that you can honor your legacy in different ways and be creative in how you do it. But
They are winning.
At the end of the day, you have a duty to put the best product out there, and they needed to kind of take that business approach to it. But guys, that's it. That's all that we have for today. I want to wish everybody a safe and wonderful holidays. Spend it with your loved ones. Don't take this time for granted. Family is where it's at. So please spend it with your family. And also be safe out there, guys. Be safe out there. We'll see you guys next week. Check us out on our socials. Remember, #1 podcast in the universe. Signing out. Peace. What's up, guys? Thank you for listening to the 3on3 podcast. Please be sure to give the episode a thumbs up if you loved it. Hit that subscribe button, and last but not least, hit that bell, so that way you're notified every time we drop a new episode. Hit us up on our social media, guys. You can find us at the 3on3 podcast on IG and Twitter. If you want to give us any ideas or suggestions, shoot us an email at the 3on3podcast@gmail.com. We appreciate you. Thank you for tuning in. See you guys next time.